folks, happy Independence Day weekend. Personally, my absolute favorite weekend of the entire year. The weekend when the summer really gets hot, really gets good. When we all go outside, if the weather holds, and fire up the grill, have a nice party. Maybe there's nice lawn games. I love lawn games, like horseshoe sort of stuff. Or ladder ball. Does anyone know ladder ball? Yeah, great time. And of course, most importantly, the weekend when we tend to really celebrate our freedom as Americans. Freedom is, I think, for many of us, a central concept of who we are as Americans. And hopefully, who we are as Christians as well, but we'll get to that in just a second. One thing that especially the epistle text for today, though, has got me thinking about on this Independence Day weekend is what freedom is all about. So we talk about freedom as Americans, that sort of thing, and blow stuff up or whatever. I have my own American flag bandana I'll be wearing as we depart for the mission trip as well, and that sort of thing, and I love that. But have you ever stopped to think about what freedom is all about? Growing up in high school, during when the Iraq War started, the whole freedom is free thing got to be a big deal, and while that slogan I think makes a good point, of course, it also I think kind of in some ways turned the idea of freedom in America into a little bit of a caricature, sort of a hoorah-rah around the flag sort of thing. And I fear when we do that, we sort of limit ourselves into fully defining what freedom is all about. Some people talk about freedom in terms of more of freedom from over-taxation or over-regulation. Other folks talk about freedom as more freedom from hunger, from want, from the increasing income inequality in our country that's threatening our schools or communities and even our ability to relate to each other as Americans. Other folks might focus more on freedom from intolerance, whether it be intolerance of someone's race or culture or gender or sexual orientation or disability or who knows what else. All sorts of different identity things. Now, while the Christian concept of freedom, I think in some ways we can kind of draw a line to it from all the things I just talked about, all the sorts of freedom I just talked about. I think the Christian concept of freedom, that's especially present in today's epistles text, goes much deeper than any of those sort of freedoms, really. So just look at what Paul says at the end of today's reading. Therefore, to keep me from being too elated, a thorn was given me in the flesh, a messenger from Satan to torment me, to keep me from being too elated. 3 times I appealed to the Lord about this, that it would leave me, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for power is made perfect in weakness. So I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may dwell in me. Therefore I am content with my weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities for the sake of Christ. Here's the key part. For whenever I am weak, then I am strong. For whenever I am weak, then I am strong. The faith to be strong in weakness, the faith to, in freedom, go by God's grace alone, that, my sisters and brothers, is what freedom in Christ is all about. And I think it informs how we think about, it should inform how we think about freedom in general. So Paul writes this letter to a community who is getting all these other kind of itinerant preachers, and they sort of have a more kind of mystically, kind of spiritual way of relating to God. So he's talking about how he saw this vision or whatever too, but how in the end that's not important. How living out in weakness and how going by God's grace alone in our everyday, absolutely ordinary lives is way more important experience of what God is all about. So what does freedom practically look like then? What does Christian freedom practically look like in our lives? Just a few suggestions. So first of all, as individuals, what does freedom look like? Freedom looks like, being able to confess our mistakes and be able to apologize to a spouse or a loved friend who you haven't talked to in years because of some silly mistake years ago. We can be released from those things in Christ and sort of just move forward together. And that freedom empowers us to move forward in closer relationships together. Just one example. Or no matter what calamities, as the text says, you might be facing in your own individual lives, whether it be anxieties or illnesses or financial misfortune, whatever it might be, freedom in Christ sort of means to be able to, in prayer, walk with God and in some way, either one or two things, in some way maybe find a little bit of joy amidst that suffering. Or on the other hand, be able to say, there is just nothing going on here good at all, and I just need to sit with that and sit with God in this and reach out for help as well. What does freedom look like as a church? Christian freedom in church, and the church looks like the fact that we can admit and say we haven't done a perfect job of everything all the time, right? So maybe the church in some ways hasn't done the best job in the last few decades of reaching out to different groups, right? There's a reason why we have a slightly older population in here today than the average. I hope we do much better than a lot of places, to be fair. But how does church change with the times? Or we're able to confess that the church maybe hasn't stuck up for people living under some different sorts of injustice over the years. We can be freed from these things, though, and in turn move forward and do better, and to go out in the world and serve our neighbor. What does freedom look like as a country? I still, wear that American flag bandana and be happy about our freedom and, remember all the important sacrifices that so many folks have made for our country. Absolutely, watch the fireworks and be proud of being Americans, but we can also say, wow, there's been plenty of times in our history where we've messed up as well, how there are all sorts of different groups that still haven't fully realized what freedom in America is all about in the 21st century. Or we can think about, confess, wow, what America did to American Indians especially, they're not celebrating on the 4th of July. And we can also admit that, the flag, as mentioned, is a sign of our freedom here in America. For some people, it's not. We can say these things and admit these things, but in confessing those things, move forward into a better future together where we can go out and be free to do amazing things in this world. And then, here's another great one about what Christian freedom looks like. If you're someone that, say, is maybe about to leave home, leave your parents for the first time, and have to shower in a bathing suit and sleep on a floor for a week, and have to wear shirts with sleeves on them for the girls. I know this was a big contentious issue. You're going to have to deal with Pastor Dustin's music on the radio for a while, and do all these sort of things to go out and learn about how God is at work in our lives and serve our neighbors and learn about how God is at work in each other's lives too. And just to go do that and amazingly raise $3,000 to make the trip happen, despite us being a small congregation. That is what Christian freedom looks like. In a funny way, that. But freedom from fear, freedom from doubt, freedom from whatever maladies might oppress us, and not just freedom, but a freedom that frees us and sends us out to go and do amazing things in the world. That is what Christian freedom is about, and that's what we are promised